All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of my favorite horror movie. We've been waiting for this moment. It's got a lot to cover. We got a lot of guests on the way. And the first one tonight, he loves the pains and the pleasures. And we're going to get into it. It's Leo Perez from the Broken Reality podcast. Let's do it. It's my favorite horror movie, the Flopbuster Movie Show, live, Tony and Gabe. All right, here we go. Welcome to the show, Leo. Thanks for coming on again.
Hey, I kind of fucked up. I didn't know this was about horror movies. My favorite movie is Weekend at Bernie's, so I don't know what to do.
Oh,
What's up, fellas? You guys looking good? You guys looking nice and healthy?
I'm doing
Full of
great.
full of dreams.
Gabe, you freshly shaved. You're sticking with the bald
Yeah.
look.
Yeah, the ball head is back for a while now.
I like it.
I
I
gotta
like
get my Rick Ross on.
There
Rick
you go.
Ross.
Yeah.
Well, you need the connection there. Then you'll have the full Rick Ross.
Oh, I can. I could get the connection. I was just gonna wait.
And you need those big sunglasses he wears, and always be licking your lips. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
lip gloss.
you know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I bet your favorite song is the one with Jared Leto in the music video
Oh God.
from the Suicide Squad soundtrack.
Do you have an unhealthy relationship with Jared Leto movies?
Me?
Yeah, because he referenced that the other day online.
I don't think it's. Unhealthy.
It's unhealthy. It's
I don't think
unhealthy.
it is.
Okay.
Well, explain what your relationship is with Jared Leto.
He's just an amazing actor and musician.
Oh, that's. Well,
Okay.
I am not here to yuck anyone's yum. You know.
You know, this is bullshit. He's underplaying it. Gabe is excited for anything his name is attached to. It's like the first thing he says, "Oh, House of Gucci." Oh, Jared Leto. I'm like, well, what about Lady Gaga and Al Pacino? No, Jared Leto. And he's fucking like, I don't know what he's doing in that movie.
Listen,
He's
this
doing
isn't the
something.
Jared Leto show, which we could do a Jared Leto show.
We are not doing the Jared Leto show. We invited Leo on to talk about his favorite horror movie, which we're going to get into. And Leo, what is that movie? What are we talking about today?
You know, this is a movie that I can watch every year, and then sometimes during the year, if I have a conversation with someone and I'm like, "Have you ever seen Hellraiser?" And if the answer is no, then I'm like, "Well, we are going to watch Hellraiser." And I've loved Hellraiser probably since I was like 7 or 8 years old, when my parents, just negligently let me watch whatever the fuck I wanted to at any time of the night, day and night. And I stumbled upon Hellraiser, and I thought I was going to get in trouble because how horrific it was and gory. And it wasn't until later on in life that I was just like, oh, this movie isn't really even scary. It's just fun and stupid, but like I love it so much, man. I'm not a big fan of the other Hellraisers, but Hellraiser 1 is fucking amazing. I fucking love that movie so much. And like the thing I love the most about it is explaining to somebody what Hellraiser's about, right? Like it's essentially about a guy who has banged so much trim that he finds no pleasure in just regular banging or whatever it is, having people pee on him or shit on his chest. He's done everything, right? He's done everything that could excite him sexually. So he goes to this fucking creepy Asian man that sells him a
In
puzzle
Monaco.
box. Yeah, that sells him a fucking puzzle box, and he does the puzzle, and these demons tear his soul apart, and because they're fucking into weird shit too. And it is the most absurd and weirdest fucking premise for a movie. And like Clive Barker is like has created like an awesome universe, but just like the story itself is so fucking campy and dumb. But I love it so much because it's just so fucking weird. It's weird. It's a weird ass movie.
Gabe, I'll let you go first. Because it looks like you got something to say.
Who, me?
Yes.
No, I mean, I was just because when Tony told me that you were doing the Hellraiser, I'm all in for it because as much as I feel he's like a horror icon, he's not talked about as much as your Freddy's, Jason's, and Michael Myers, right? He's always sort of, oh yeah, I've seen Hellraiser, or it's okay type of situation. But did you ever read the Hellbound Heart?
Yeah, the Hellbound Heart's really fucking good.
What'd you think about it?
It's weird. It's just like weird, but it's like romantic in a sense, right? Like it's just like it's a romantic horror story.
So is it like because I know he's not known as Pinhead in it.
No, I forgot what I think he's called the
Hell Priest and the Engineer as well. Yeah,
the Hell Priest. The Engineer is the monster. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So was the movie sort of like the Hellbound Heart? Or is it like completely changed? Did he like Clive Barker change it up?
I read it a long time ago in graphic novel form, and it's not mostly the story with Frank and the woman is mostly it, and the daughter's involved somewhat, but I remember it just being like this like weird ass fucking love story that just had like sadomasochism and fucking weird sex shit in it. Like that's the thing. Like mostly Hellraiser is just like the earliest form of horror porn, right? Like it was just like, but they couldn't make it to the way Clive Barker wanted it made, so it had to be extremely dumbed down for an R rating.
Yeah, because they got it.
Originally, it was an X rated. Yeah, it was X rated. Yeah, and even like some of like the reasoning behind it was like dumb too. Like there's a scene where he's having sex with Frank's having sex with the stepmom, and only 2 thrusts were okay. Anything more than 2 thrusts would have given the film an X rating. Was seen as debauchery. So he could only pump her twice, and then they had to cut to something else.
He's a 2-pump chump.
A 2-pump chump.
Or there's that. Another weird thing about this movie has a strange vibe to it, where it's uncomfortable from the very first frame, the very last frame. Yeah. And another thing that adds to it is the strange overdubbing of actors, because New World Pictures thought, well, audiences will connect to it if they're all American. Which half these actors, it's shot in London, half of them are London-based actors, had to redo their lines with completely different people overdubbing for them. But man, yeah, it goes back to what you said. I haven't seen this in a very long time, and I saw it way too young. And all these things.
I didn't show it to you, did I?
No, my grandmother had it. My grandma Kathy had like all these horror movies that like I shouldn't have been watching.
Grandmother showed it to you, huh?
Yeah.
No, I just watched it on my own. If it had a cool cover, I was gonna watch it. None of this sex shit that happens in it. I knew nothing about it. I don't know much about Clive Barker. I do know that he got the inspiration for this from gay clubs, like BDSM clubs. In New York City. But it's just it's a strange movie, but it's so captivating and holds your attention. The visuals are just like insane, and he's always been known for that, from this to Candyman. But man, it's an off-putting movie in like the best possible way.
Dude, like even from the beginning, like in the beginning where they walk into the house, or like it shows the story of like Frank, and like when he starts like coming back together after he gets the blood from the dad, like that shit's like really gory. Like, and back then they had so many limited resources, they only had limited resources, so like the goriness of the movie is really impressive because of like what they were able to do, man. Because like this guy, like it was like he regenerated, and they show each kind of step in regeneration, and he's like, don't look at me, like all that shit was just so fucking weird and awesome.
That was a lot of lube. Like the guys that were saying that they used so much lube
really
movie that they would have to go to like sex shops and buy lube, and they would feel uncomfortable with the amount of lube that they were buying. That way they could get that viscosity of like the muscle and tendons growing. So they used lube to make it all look wet and shiny on screen.
I just imagine them going to like some London like fucking sex shop, like, "Oi, what you doing with all this lube?" He's like, "Don't worry about it."
Well, Barker wasn't pleased with the effects, no matter what, and he was like, "I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more." Another cool thing about that scene with Frank is it's played in reverse. a lot of the stop motion scenes for like the American Werewolf in London scene, the Great Transformation,
Yeah.
they would have to do it backwards. They would have to play the footage backwards in order to get the effect that it's going for. But man, that scene is just—it's disgusting. It's gross. And I was wondering what that was, Gabe. I had no idea it was lube, but
It was.
now that's all I'm gonna imagine.
I
This
was
lube
always,
monster.
even to this day, I was always extra weirded out by the hobo that was following her throughout the whole movie. And at
Right.
the end, he grabs the puzzle box and he turns into a bat and he flies away, or whatever, like a bat creature. Like, I was always confused by him. I don't understand what his purpose was in the movie, other than to just. I guess he was the retriever of the puzzle box, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I assume that he would. They've done this multiple times throughout history, and they
Yeah.
needed. They're doing it again. They're doing it over again. That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
The layman configuration.
Yeah, it's just a really weird, fun movie, and it's like you guys said, like it's really unsettling, and I've seen most of the sequels, and I know like Pinhead's origin is essentially like he was like a Nazi fucking doctor who just like ended up going to hell for being a Nazi, and like that's how he became Pinhead. He was like down there and like, oh, we got a job for you because you suck. So like, but like I don't really remember too much of anything after Hellraiser, Hell on Earth.
What about you, Gabe? Did you see any of the sequels? I stopped at 3. I haven't seen anything after 3.
I stopped at 3, and then I saw one recently. I can't even tell you which one. I think 7. I know there's like 9 sequels. So,
And they're remaking it too.
And then there's the remake. So I seen 4 out of the 9.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've been okay. They were okay. I mean, the first 3 I think are great. After that, once they stopped doing the theatrical releases, and they went into straight to DVD, I was like, no, I'm not in for this. I mean, I don't know, but it's just hard.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to point out is
Uh-huh.
this movie's all about the pains and the pleasures and whatnot. I think Larry's a cuck.
Oh, for sure.
There's this strange exchange with the movers where the one guy is checking out Julia, and he's just not even hiding it. And he exchanges this look with the husband, and Larry gives this look of approval. I think he was totally okay with it, 100%. And everybody in this movie, besides Kirsty, is off-putting and has strange reasons for why they do the things they do. Down to Julia picking up these single London-based men to bring. They're all British, which is it's weird that they didn't overdub their lines, but everybody else had to be dubbed. It's a strange thing, but man, another insane scene is you go back to the hobo, is when he's eating the crickets, and he's there to gross out Kirsty and follow her around in any which way. It's off-putting. She's the only character in this movie that's just completely normal. Everybody else is just fucking insane.
So, like, what would be your guys' favorite scene in Hellraiser then?
I would say that mine is when she brings in the second guy. No, the third guy. Like the one that's like, sometimes I feel alone. And she's like, yeah, come on, let's go in the room. and she just whacks him in the fucking head with the hammer, but he's still up, and he's like, don't let him eat or kill me. And it's just like, the part is so bad, but so good. And then like Christy's outside, and like that whole thing, and just like, that part is so good. But then also my second favorite one is when Larry or Frank as the dad tries to have sex with her, and just because it's so off-putting and weird, and like you said earlier, like there's so much sexual tension between every single person in that movie, and part of me wonders if that was done on purpose to give more of that feeling of tension and strangeness, because there's even some sexual tension between the dad and Christy, like when they're having the dinner party, and she's like, stop, don't give me too much brandy. Or I won't be able to stand up. And he's like, well, you can lay down. And the dad just kind of looks over, not angry, but just kind of like, what's going on there? You know, like it's fucking weird. They're just so just very incesty and a lot of sexual tension and just like just a lot of weirdness between the actors. And I wonder if that was all done on purpose.
Now, you brought up Chrissy. Like, how do you think? What did you think of her as like the final girl in this? Like, in general, her character.
She's one of my favorites, you know, because like I think from the beginning she shows like a lot of courage and a lot of like she's not trusting of the stepmom, you know?
Right.
So like yeah,
nobody trusts the stepmom.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I like her because like she's smart too, right? Like she strikes the deal with them to kind of get Frank, you know, out and even in part two is really weird because part two is almost like a Alice in Wonderland kind of like fever dream sequel. And I don't know, man, like I really like her character in the movie.
Right.
Yeah. I gotta say real quick, I'm gonna reference the chat. We got Return of the Living Flat. Hey, how's it going, man? Not that bad. Nice seeing you. The moment Kirsty meets the Cenobites for the first time in the hospital, is off-putting. It goes back to the sexual tension. Even the Cenobites, that's their purpose. But even like I can't help but laugh with the things that Pinhead says. And then he's got his hype man or hype woman, the female Cenobite, who's just trying to fuck, you know, the whole time. She's just like, there's so much about, they seem confused that somebody wouldn't want them to pleasure them to death, kill them in gruesome ways. Like, why wouldn't you want this? You summoned us. This is our purpose. You want this. It's so
you
gross.
solved the box. Why don't you want us sewing your vagina closed and shoving a bunch of oatmeal in there beforehand? Well, I really understand.
What would be your pleasure to death if they were going to do that?
Ooh, probably like it wouldn't even be anything. They'd be very bored. It wouldn't be anything sexual. It would probably just be, like feeding me, like I don't know, like fucking steak or something. Like I just eat so much steak until like I blow up or something.
Oh, so you'd be like a feeder.
Yeah, for sure, like a feeder. Yeah, I mean I don't know, like I think if like they jerk me off to death, that's just like not fun, right? Like that's just boring too. Like nobody wants to see that, but everybody wants to see a fat guy just have like steak shoved down his gullet until he dies. You know. What about you guys? What would be like your you
go first, Gabe. I don't know, man. Either way, it ends badly for you. The things that they do to these people in these movies, it's like maybe like Frank, for example, maybe he is into that, but it ends for him in the worst possible way. So, Gabe, I don't know. What would your pick be?
I sort of this along the same lines. Just I would like drown in a vat of cherry Pepsi or something. I don't know.
Man, it would be more fucked up than that. They would put you in cherry Pepsi where it's like acid and burning off your skin. That's
what if they give him a cherry Pepsi enema? And it's just like coming out of his mouth and his nose and his dick hole.
The fat side of the bottle in first.
Yeah. They're just like, take this.
Oh man, no, I don't think anybody wants to see that, Gabe.
No.
I don't know. I mean the food thing that goes back to that reminds me of that scene in Nightmare. Was it Nightmare 4 or 5?
Yeah.
The girl's being just fed to death by Freddy because she's got that image issue.
Or when Homer goes to hell and they're just feeding him donuts.
They're just feeding him. I don't know if I'd want that. I feel like picturing how messed up the Cenobites are. I'm like, either way, this is a bad scenario for me. So it's just like maybe my pleasure is just being like, I don't know, just shot in the fucking face. They'll find a way to.
Would you play with the lament box then?
Fuck no.
If you came across the lament box, would you actually play with it?
I probably wouldn't if I knew what it was. I'd be like, I'm not fucking with this. I mean, I can't even get like you know, I have tattoos and even like I'm a baby with those, you know, like I can't no man, if I get a piece of tape on me, it's like the end of my day, you know, because I got a lot of hair in my arms. So if I get tape, I'm fucked, man. I can't deal with pain. Are you kidding me? You know,
I think I would.
You'd mess with that box?
Yeah.
I'm guessing you would.
I would.
Oh man.
Okay, so like in my emo days, I used to like, not that I advocate for this, right? I used to cut myself. So it was like, I used to burn myself. Like on my wrist, I got like cuts and burns on them. A lot of them are covered by tattoos, so that way you don't see them anymore. But I used to be that type of person, so I would like, yeah, why not? Just to check it out, just a little bit. Just give me a little taste.
I don't know.
Well, we took a real turn to Bummer City.
I know.
No, I'm kidding.
I know.
So what would you rate it on, like the scariness level for this entire movie?
I don't think it's very scary at all. At least not.
Like if you got 1 to 10 scale,
I'd give it a 6. I give it a 5.5 to 6 in scary. I give it a 10 in originality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I give it a 10 in character design. Fucking the character design in this movie is amazing.
Oh, yeah, like
costume design, all that shit. Like, and in goriness, I give it a nice 8. But like, dude, this movie is all character design, and even the guy that plays Pinhead's a character actor. Like, it's just like, it's so like that's the shit in the movie that's so much fun. Like, it's not like your typical slasher flicks, which I know you guys are big fans of, and I'm not. I'm not a fan of slasher flicks, and this is like the perfect scary movie for me because it's weird, it's more like I guess mental, right? Like It's just like how far are you willing to go for something that you really obsess about. That's really what it is. It's more like a look inside the dark parts of your brain, and they made it like really like dark and weird and just fucking out there. And that's why I love this movie so much. And not to shit on slashers, but they all follow the same fucking formula. And it's all the same shit for the most part. That's why I'm so hard on movies like, and we got a whole 48 minutes left to go, so I'm going to shit on Scream. I fucking hate Scream. And I'm not a big fan of a lot of those slashers because it's all the same shit, right? There's all the turn at the end, the twist at the end. Who was it? It was that guy. It was that chick. Like I'd say if I had a favorite slasher, it was probably Sleepaway Camp because of how fucking nut bars it goes in the end, right? It's just like it's fucking weird at the end.
Pun included.
What was that?
Pun included. How not to get.
Yeah. So like that's why to me I love movies like Hellraiser or like Heredity or The Witch. The ones that really you sit there afterwards and you're just like, huh, you can have an entire conversation like we're having of like what would be one of the ways that the Cenobites would get you, right? Like you can have a conversation afterwards. If you watch a slasher flick, all you pretty much just be like, well, who would survive? None of you would, because we're all fucking slow and stupid, like that's why I appreciate those movies a bit more than your typical slashers.
So you think you'd survive this?
Yes, because I wouldn't open the puzzle.
Let's say you open the puzzle. Would you be able to survive?
I'm toast.
You wouldn't be as smart as Christy to be like, yo, I could give you something else better.
If I could bargain, yes. But if I open the box on my own without anything to bargain, like you're screwed, right? That's the only reason she survived. Mm-hmm. She survived because she was able to bargain. Like
until they wanted to fuck her.
Toast. Huh?
Until they still wanted to fuck her.
Yeah, they were just like
you're still gonna get pleasure to death.
Yeah.
Christy, yeah. I mean, I think that's what makes her so smart is that she is the final girl on paper, yes. But through the first half of the movie, she takes a back seat to the villains. Julie and Frank are at the forefront. It's their story in that first half. And by the time Kirsty is thrown into the shit, it's go. And she makes all the right decisions in order to survive. Like what Frank cornered upstairs, she throws the alignment configuration out the window and runs, making the deal with the Cenobites. Even at the end, figuring out the puzzle. And I think that's what sets her apart from most final girls in like slashers. As much as we like slashers, Gabe, there's not many smart ones. Maybe Sydney and Lori, and that's about it. But Kirsty makes every smart decision from the moment she figures out, oh, there's like weird shit going on, and everything I know is just like not what it is. And from that point on, like yeah, it's from bargaining with the Cenobites to even the puzzle at the end. Um, but yeah, I don't think I would survive it. I wouldn't even open the puzzle. I wouldn't fuck with it.
Well, while we're here, and I don't mean to get off topic, but we're chatting here. Um, what draws you guys more to slasher flicks? I really do want to know. Like what draws you guys to slasher flicks?
I think it was the first genre I got introduced to.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmare on Elm Street, which I
Do you consider that a slasher flick?
I would say so.
A little bit. I mean, Freddy is a slasher, but I think he's on a cusp of being a slasher, and I think that's how they identify him. But I think his is more psychological than this slasher.
Yeah. I really love the Dream Warriors. That's like my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
But I lean more, and I've said this a lot. I lean more to like the exorcisms, the paranormal stuff. I love all those stuff. I love demons and hell and possession movies. That's why I lean more. But slashers is just I grew up with those. My mom introduced me to all the slashers. Well, my mom and my dad.
It goes back to being a kid, and I mean, for me, it goes back. I wasn't really allowed to watch like R-rated things, and then unless it was like Jet Li or like fucking Will Smith or something. My dad had like the drive-in, but my grandmother's house, it's all they had. It was slasher movies. It was all of the Friday the 13th. It was all of the Halloween movies. All of the Nightmare on Elm Street. So I could just binge them all at night. And one, it's something I shouldn't be watching, but two, it was cool seeing Freddy do his thing, or in the first Halloween movie, just the visuals of it. And I think slashers, it's a director's subgenre of horror for sure. There's some bad ones, and there's ones that I can't fucking defend, and I'll get some enjoyment out of it maybe around the holiday just by checking it out and go, oh yeah, I remember when I was a kid liking this. But I think what I like when a slasher is done right, it's got a little bit of Hitchcock in there, where it's about the twisting of the knife and the upping of the dread. Like in Halloween, I could look at the first one now and go, oh, Laurie doesn't know through like 75% of this movie that she's in a horror movie up until she discovers the dead bodies. And again, it's very much like Kirsty in this, where it's just like, that's terrifying because your friends are fucking dead, but you don't know anything. You go across the street to go check on them, and it's a bloodbath, and it's a fight to survive until the end, and you don't know if this guy's human or not. On top of that. So I think it's a little bit of that. Of course, I can't defend Friday the 13th. I know what that is. I watched that movie as a kid in those movies because they had tits and they had blood and they had gore, and it was fun.
Yeah, I can defend Friday the 13th better than I can Halloween.
I mean, because you're
coming out with Hitchcockian like themes for Halloween, and I'm over here like
there's plenty of Hitchcock in that movie. The down to the names. He stole a bunch of things from Hitchcock. In there.
You're saying you're saying the Halloween is Hitchcockian, where Friday the 13th is more fodder, like right?
Yeah. And I think I can manage to like both. Not all of Halloween is. Halloween definitely becomes like, oh, Friday the 13th is doing this thing. Maybe we can do that as well. From 2, not 3, because 3 is just its own thing, right? It's just like fucking crazy kids dying from watching this TV special, and it's just wacko. But from like 2, 4 on, it's they take the Friday formula. Like these movies are doing their thing, and they're killing kids each movie. We could do that too.
I don't know, man. Like I always like with Friday the 13th. I never really rooted against Jason, right? Like,
I think anybody does.
He was like just some poor like Down syndrome kid that like the counselors just let drown, and then Jesus gave him superhuman powers, and he came back and he fucking like, just killed all of them. Like that's he's like kind of like, I don't know, a superhero. Just
he really is, come to think of it. Yeah.
In any slasher, you don't really root for anybody else but the slasher. I mean,
and I think that's my problem with Scream is that they made like the core group like they're like superhuman in a way. Like they sort of like I didn't watch any like I didn't watch the last one, but like in most of them, it's Nev Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, right? They've survived. Even like David Arquette's character gets stabbed like in every movie, and he still survives. So like they've got this like superhuman sense, like they're the stars, not Ghostface, right?
Right.
And in all the other old slashers, the star is the Freddys, the Michaels, the Jasons.
But I think like somebody referenced in the chat is that if you don't like the slasher thing, you could always go into and say like, all right, those kills are awesome. Like for example, I don't really care for the new Halloween movies. I'm not a Halloween guy, and I've always said that, but I could appreciate them for the actual cool ass kills that they have. Like I could appreciate Jason for the cool ass kills that they have. One of the reasons, Jason X is so high on my list is for the cool ass kills Jason X has.
Jason X is fun.
Right.
Hell yeah.
So like, you may not like the slasher, but when you watch a slasher movie, it's you rooting for the bad guy and you're rooting for like some bomb ass kills because that's what you want. That's what you're there for. Like you don't need a whole freaking backstory about this is my brother and I'm his sister and my brother killed my sister so long ago and all this other stuff. But you know what I'm saying? Like I don't need that backstory. Just give me some cool ass kills, and I'm good.
And I think that's what always like just drew me away from them is that like you're saying like those all follow the same formula where you want to see the kills, right? And then the reason I'm so dismissive towards like Scream is because you don't really get anything fancy in those. Not that I can remember. I don't remember anything being like in Jason X, he kills somebody while they're in the sleeping bag. He just like beats them to death on a tree. Like that was cool, right? Or in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Freddy like has a pizza with like people's souls in it. Like that's fucking fun. That's fun, And
for sure.
And some of these other ones, you just don't get that fun shit,
I think with Scream, and there's definitely a bunch of people that just it's not for them. I have a friend, Jason, who has the channel Sinister Cinema. He has the same reaction to Scream you do. He's just like, it's just not for me. It's literally it's a whodunit with a bunch of people are going to survive. And for me, it's fun because I like those actors and I think it's funny and I get the satire behind it. But if somebody doesn't like it, I'm like, yeah, I totally get it because after maybe Scream 1, it doesn't get scarier. Like you know the formula, you know how it's gonna end, you know who the killer's gonna be. Real quick, I want to mention the chat. Jay, how's it going, man? Barbarian, I'm excited. I'm seeing Barbarian tomorrow. I'll have a review up on the channel. That looks dope. But yeah, so going back to what you said, I
like how Chris Snyder says that the real villain is Julia, and he's fucking right because she's such an awful bitch, man.
She's terrible.
Cheating on her husband, fucking bringing back her old dead fucking brother-in-law, just being a shithead.
Out of this movie, like all the cringeworthy scenes, like all like the hooks and the chains and all that, the one that gets me the most, and because I move furniture sometimes with for my thing, is when they're moving that mattress and that nail is sticking out of the wall.
Oh yes.
And then the anticipation, the way Clive Barker shot that scene, it's just like it makes my asshole pucker.
I can feel it. Like you can feel it.
Yeah. You see it, and then you see the hand moving a little bit closer to the nail.
It's so slow the way
it's so slow, and closer and closer, and then all of a sudden you just see the nail head just grab and rip the hand open. Oh my god, like that just
I just watched that part right now, and I'm just like, it has the same effect on me. Like you said, you almost feel like a phantom sensation of that nail ripping through your own hand.
And I know that it's happened, like not with a nail, but you're moving a mattress or a desk out of a room, and you hit your elbow, you hit your hand on the door jamb, and it's just like, so that, but the nail just gets me all the damn time.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Gabe. We've talked about before, like practical effects. In this movie, the practical effects are the star. And Clive Barker, I mean, that's intentional, right? The Cenobites have this dream-like ambiance to them. All the sequences, the dream sequence with Kirsty, and then hearing the screaming baby and lifting the sheet. All of those things, the practical effects are the star of the show. And that's something when we do get in horror movies now, it is a treat, but it's not as often unless you dig deep for something like Terrifier or on Shudder, whatever it's going to be, or Psycho Goreman.
Yeah.
But in the 80s, it was all practical all the time. You think of The Howling, Gremlins, American Werewolf, this Child's Play. There's a craft and there's an art to it, and it adds to the scares because it is real. Like you are watching something that is real because it is on set. It's so for example, I like the new It movies, but I do know when Pennywise starts turning fucking alien mode, I'm like, okay, that's fake. Like they're acting with like a tennis ball and a green screen. Like it's not real.
Yeah.
But like
Right.
Andy, for example, the child actor, I forget his name. Gabe, you probably know it. Alex, I forget. But when he's acting with Chucky in the first
Vincent something.
Alex Vincent.
Alex
When he's
Vincent.
acting with Chucky in the first movie, it's just like, oh, like it's real that you could feel this child being fucking terrified of this doll charging at him, or cursing the Cenobites, or that big creature that's chasing her down the hall. And you could see the wires and stuff sticking out of it. But I will take that any day over that being like CGI today. You know what I mean? Like there's realness to it.
Yeah.
There is. And towards the end of this movie, and they've said it, is they only had like $1 million budget. So
Really?
when we get to like the guy, everybody going back into the lament box, and it has like the really weird yellow CGI like spirit things, they had at that point run out of money, and it was just Clive Barker and it's just some random dude just trying to do some CGI effects. That's like what he said. He's like, we were just trying to do something for free on the cheaps.
Right. I want to mention something because Chris said something funny, and I was thinking this too. Is Larry's an idiot. The way he asked Kirsty to come visit, and she's like, I have to get a job. And his response is, what for, sweetie? I always thought that was strange too. It's just like, it's a nice gesture. It's like, no, she's a fucking adult. She's a fucking adult, man. Let her go do her thing. She works at this shitty pet store.
Like, that's weird. Like in the movie, like I was thinking about this before I hopped on. I'm like, are they rich or like like what's going on here?
I assume they were rich. I think that Larry, I don't know what he does.
But then why did he move into like his old
place? Yeah.
You know
where
what's
his
weird
brother's
about
been
that house?
squatting.
You know what I realized about it if you watch it again, and I wonder if Stranger Things took this nod, but on the door there's a fucking rose. In the glass, in that colored glass. I forgot what it's called. Somebody help me.
The stained glass one.
Yes, the stained glass window is almost it's almost the same as the door rose from the new Stranger Things.
Or the same rose from Beauty and the Beast.
Even Frank reminds me of Vecna. Frank looks a lot like Vecna.
Yes, there's a lot of similarities. Vecna, even like when he's the first scene you see him when he's kind of like coming to, gaining his form, like he's kind of got like the Vecna like makeup face there.
And
I know the Duffer Brothers, I know that throw in so many 80s references, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's Pinhead.
They throw everything at you, and I wouldn't be, Gabe, I wouldn't be shocked if they took a little bit from Hellraiser. I think it had to. I mean, the effects look, Frank and Vecna look almost identical. Come to think about it.
And then like Frank's in the attic, and so was Vecna and all that shit.
Yeah. Oh, damn. Yeah, Stranger Things 4 had a ton of Hellraiser going on. Yeah, didn't even think about it.
I know there's people that shit on Stranger Things because it grabs so many things from other shows or movies or whatever, but I really do enjoy that show. That show is a lot of fun because it brings you back to old shit. You're just like, oh wait, that reminds me of this movie, or like this season had a lot of tones of like Nightmare on Elm Street, and I was like, fuck, that's like it's kind of on the nose, but then like after you're done with it, you're like, man, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that they're taking all of these things that we grew up with, all these ideas and genres, and they're just kind of like reintroducing them, for newer audiences, right? Because when you're done watching Stranger Things with like your friends or like your kids or whatever, they'll be like, oh, that was not a Nightmare on Elm Street, and they're like, what's Nightmare on Elm Street, Dad? And you're just like, well, here it is. Like well, let's watch it. So that's, I don't know.
It does have that effect, and I think in the wrong hands, it can be terrible. Like, fucking Adam Sandler does 80s like throwback movies, and like sometimes he's funny and he does great things, or you have fucking Pixels where it's riffing on a bunch of 80s iconography like Pac-Man and stuff, but it's also a fucking bad movie. But Stranger Things, there's like an actual craft to it. They're referencing John Carpenter and Spielberg all in like one shot, and then they'll throw in like a 16 Candles reference, and it all works. Like it all makes sense, and Dungeons and Dragons and all that. But yeah, I can't believe how much Hellraiser is in season 4. And I mean, I love Stranger Things, but looking back at Frank, it's crazy.
Yeah. You know what I think is also crazy? If you take a look at the horror movies at that time, for Clive Barker to be his directorial debut with this movie, it was so different back in 87, right? Because you still had, Freddy was still at an all-time high. Chucky was just around the corner. Friday the 13th was still in. It was like the era of slashers, and then in comes Hellraiser with this whole gothic S&M, chic. Like it was so different for this movie. I mean, this movie made bank in '87. Like I said, it was shot for $1 million, and it made $4.4 million opening weekend, and the total it made $14.5 million.
Gabe, you bring up a really good point, man. Is that how did he fucking sell that to a studio? Because this movie for back then was against the grain of what I think a lot of studios wanted. Like they wanted to build on franchises, probably, right?
They did. What they went back and gave Clive Barker notes and told him that they wanted Pinhead to be more witty like Freddy, and they said that they wanted him to talk more. Those were the notes that the studio gave Clive.
Okay.
And Clive was like, "No, I'm not gonna."
He put his foot down, and to like what studio would Roger Corman? Roger Corman's New World Pictures got involved with.
But how hard would that be to be like your first movie that you're doing? Like he had done like 2 shorts. This is his first film, and he's like, "Nope, I ain't gonna make them like Freddy." Like, no.
I think because in spite of whatever the studio would have done or wanted, Clive Barker would have been successful no matter what as a horror writer and just being in that league, right? Because like it's him, what's Peter Straub, Stephen King. They're all those they're a clique of like horror guys, right? Writers. So like. Regardless,
and Stephen King was all about this movie and the story.
Yeah.
He was like all about it when it came out. He really championed it.
And that's the thing. Like I think that regardless of him making the movie or not, Clive Barker would have been successful in whatever he wanted.
Barker, besides the movie, like you said, as a horror writer, he changed, a lot of novels and a lot of horror novels.
Yeah.
Just the way that he wrote things. He had definitely a different vision because Candyman. I mean, who would think of Candyman? Like. His imprint on horror in general it changed the landscape of horror.
Candyman is so fucking good. It's such a fun movie.
And I see that Chris brings up, the Midnight Meat Train that he did.
That's a really underrated one. It's really gnarly, really messed up.
Oh, I've never seen that.
It's messed up. Yeah, it's like
messed up.
I gotta check it out. Yeah,
right. Something you guys bring up with Clive Barker, and I think I haven't read much of his work, but what I can tell when it comes to his adaptations is. He does something different with his storytelling. With like Pinhead, right, is the poster child of Hellraiser. The Cenobites are barely in the movie. They have maybe 16 minutes of screen time, maybe less. But it's the dread of the movie around it that just, by the time you get to those scenes, there's a great payoff. Candyman doesn't come in until like an hour into the movie. But by then, you're so invested in the investigation that there's this huge payoff of seeing the carnage in the back half. And most, I think, directors would have been like, oh, no, we got to show the killer like within the first few minutes. I mean, for Halloween, for example, you keep cutting back to Myers, right? While the characters are doing their thing, you cut back to him and what he's doing. Or Freddy, like you see Freddy from the beginning. He kills Tina. He does this. Like he's always there. And I think it's kind of ballsy at this point in time to have these characters that you're promoting and marketing with, and they're not really the spotlight of the movie. They're more in the background pulling the strings.
Yeah, man, it's almost like in Clive Barker, especially in Hellraiser and Candyman, it's like the setting is already like a setting of hopelessness, right? There's already a lot of dread happening. Like Christy's family is broken, right? There's no mom. There's a stepmom. She's kind of a bitch. The dad's a fucking weirdo. Right, she's evil. Christy's just like aloof, doesn't really know what's going on. But there's that feeling of impending doom and hopelessness. In Candyman, they're in the fucking projects.
Cabrini Green.
Right. They're Cabrini Green. Like there's already this like, so like Candyman's the least of their problems. They got fucking gangs and fucking crack to fight off, and now they got Candyman. Like you can't win. So it's like almost this like weird feeling of like, no, even if they beat the bad guys, they still have to live in this fucking world that he's created where it's just like there's like no hope. It's dreadful.
Right. And I think it's the way he shoots it, which I think is very creative because it's not like overly bright. It's not overly dim. It's very muted tones, very, like concrete, beige type of stuff. It's like it's like a world that you actually don't really want to live in. It's so dull.
It's a dour movie. And one, it's shot in London, and London doesn't look like a place I want to live. It's raining all the time. The food sucks.
Which is funny because they mentioned Brooklyn like they were in New York. Oh yeah,
Right.
I was over here in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, credit to Candyman too. Bernard Rose, who directed that, carries over the Clive Barker feel that you guys mentioned, where it's just dreadful. Just like, do you want to live in Chicago in Candyland or Candyman, or not Candyland, Candyman? But no, you don't, because it's fucking dreadful, and it seems
Nobody wants to live in Candyland either.
Nobody wants to live in Candyland either.
No.
No, I think that's a great point to make, is that his movies have, even Midnight Meat Train, which Chris mentioned. I remember that movie having that same dreadful feeling, and just like something just feels sinister and off and disgusting about it. And it's a lot of directors and creators can't get away with just having this sort of very dour tone, but Clive Barker can. It's the visuals.
You know, there's a lot of credit to his writing, because I think a lot of, I don't know if you guys read a lot of horror books. I've dabbled, and there's a lot of writers that are inspired by by Clive Barker, and their writing just comes off as funny. And I'm not going to name drop them because I don't want any. I don't know. I just don't want to like shit on anybody's craft, right? But these guys will try to do what Clive Barker does. And like, if anybody else wrote Hellraiser, it would be funny. That's why I'm kind of like slightly skeptical of the new movie, or of the remake, because that movie, you have a really good chance of making it funny, like funny bad, right? And I think whatever he does, he's able to capture the tone and the emotions of the characters, and just the overall feeling of dread. And I don't know if anybody else can pull it off. You know, it takes a very talented writer to be able to do that.
It does.
Sure.
Would you guys able to check out last year? Who released Clive Barker's Tales of Blood? He did an anthology. They're like one of his books.
That's right. I did not see this. I've heard a lot about it. Yeah.
I'm getting it on Audible. Yeah.
It is so the way that Hulu adapted it, it was really good. It was like, think like Trick or Treat type, anthology type movie, but it was Clive Barker's. They adapted it from his book.
Well, I know Hellraiser, he wanted all of them to be different stories of the puzzle box. But I do know that the studio forced him to make part 2 to be a follow-up of part 1. But I know he wanted to go to a completely different way. And I feel like that puzzle box idea, that's like, dude, that's an anthology. Like, it could be a TV show in itself, right?
Right.
Like, we got some good. So it's called Tales of Blood. You said that's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu.
It's not based on a book, because I thought I saw a book that
it's based off the book.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was looking at in Audible. So
yeah,
really big on Audible right now, guys.
I think the last thing I listened to on Audible, and you mentioned horror writers, and there's people that you read certain people's writing and they're trying to emulate somebody and it doesn't work. And then you read the real deal, the actual author, King, for example. King's writing is so dense, and it's a lot. Like It, for example, is such a long book. Audible, I listen to Audible, it's like 48 hours.
Yeah.
But the things that King does and what he's able to get away with as a writer, it's almost charismatic, because you understand how he writes, and it's entertaining. It's completely entertaining. And if you see somebody trying to emulate King, it's just like, oh, you're trying to be like King. But there's only one King. Maybe his son comes close. I've read some of Joe Hill's work, fantastic writer. But yeah. Joe Hill does his own thing. He's not trying to be like his dad.
Yeah.
There's only one Stephen King, and it same thing with Clive Barker. It's just if you say, going back to what you said about writers trying to emulate that, it's just, there's something that those two in particular had that just you can't.
Dude, I'm going through a whole Stephen King binge right now on Audible. I just finished The Stand and It and The Shining, but right now I'm going through all the Dark Tower books. I don't know if you guys ever read that.
I didn't get to the Dark Tower. How long is the Dark Tower?
The Dark Tower is 8 books, I believe.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It's 7 books from the Dark Tower, and then there's one kind of like crammed in there that's like a side story.
Right.
But the Dark Tower is amazing up until the point where Stephen King's doing a bunch of coke and he writes himself into the book, which that fucking sucks. But up until the Wolves of Cala, the Dark Tower is an amazing fucking series. Probably the best, one of the best series of all time, arguably.
Is there Cliff Notes on that?
What was that?
Is there a Cliff Notes on that?
Oh, Cliff Notes?
Yeah.
I mean, I can just tell it to you. But like, dude, the coolest thing about Stephen King, about the Dark Tower, is everything that Stephen King writes is connected to the Dark Tower. And there's like, and that's why this guy has written so many books that have become movies, and some of his books have become movies that have won Academy Awards, is because he's really fucking good at what he does, and he creates like these awesome fucking worlds. And dude, if you want, I would even say read the Wikipedia of the Dark Tower, like all of them, and dude, they're so fucking good.
Gabe, you can watch the Matthew McConaughey movie.
Dude, the thing is, that movie was supposed to be so fucking good because it was actually a continuation. Big spoiler. In the Dark Tower, everything goes full circle. It ends the way it starts.
Okay.
And after you read it, you're like, oh no, like what the fuck? Like this, it's like a big time loop. But the Matthew McConaughey movie was supposed to be a continuation because the gunslinger had something he didn't have before. And maybe this time it was going to be a different outcome. So that's what made that. And when I saw it and I was like, oh, this is fucking bad. Like I felt so fucking shitty. I felt so shitty because it was like this. You were the chosen one. You were supposed to bring balance, and fuck, it didn't, man.
Well, they worked on it forever. It was like 10 or 12 years. They were working on the movie.
And then Amazon bought it, and then they lost they didn't want to do anything with it.
No, they didn't want to do anything with it. And I know enough about the Dark Tower, and that's always been one series I've been wanting to get into. But from what I know, the fans that are fans of it are like, it's some of King's best work because it's so rich in its storytelling. And yeah, everything is connected. Like the turtle from It.
Dude, it's his Lord of the Rings, man. That's his Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Gabe, go. I mean, that could be the first book you read, Gabe. It has words and not pictures.
Listen, if it doesn't have any pop-ups, I ain't reading.
That's fair.
I guess we should wrap it up. But Leo, is there any closing notes on Hellraiser? Like, why is it one of the best, man? Why does it stand the test of time?
Because Jesus wept, man. Because Jesus wept.
Fair.
You need to get a Hellraiser tattoo.
There you go. Dude,
I kind of want to get a tattoo that says Jesus wept. And then just have people be like, what does that mean? You know,
and then you get disowned by your Mexican family.
Oh, they've already disowned me. Yeah, they've already. That ship has sailed. No, man, if I had to say one parting thing is that if you've not seen this movie and you're a fan, not only of horror, but of weird horror, it's got to be a movie that you see. It's got to be. And it's not that long, and it's fun. It's a good. What is it, like an hour and a half? It's a short movie. It's not that long. Well, back
like
in
90,
like 90 something minutes. But it's something worth watching. And if you never want to see it ever again, you don't have to. But at least you say that you saw it. You know.
Gabe, anything to add before we start closing off?
Just remember that Julia is a true villain. If it wasn't for her, for her desire of Frank when she looks through his pictures when he's going there, like none of this would have happened.
Right. She got turned on by him with the prostitute. Yeah.
With the prostitutes, and then him with his shirt off, and then she's like, oh, because homie wasn't hitting it right. The husband wasn't hitting it right. So she was like, well, somebody's got to hit it right. And then for a movie that's sort of with so much supposedly S&M, right? I don't think there was a lot of nudity in this movie. Like, no, you barely got to see like a little bit of like Julia's breast, and that was like about it.
Yeah, I know. She very much had 80s titties.
That's true. Hey, you sound disappointed that there wasn't enough nudity.
I mean, I get it, man. Like, when you're a kid back then, or even now, like, you just want to pop on a movie and you're like, I hope I see some nice breasts. Like in Return of the Living Dead,
That's
If
true.
if you watch the other Hellraisers, like there's so much nudity in those now,
Yeah.
and the newer ones, but the first one was like very very flat.
Well, maybe the remake will have more titties for us.
Which are you okay? I know Tony's trying to close up, so we have 5 minutes. But are you guys excited for the remake? Do you think this movie needed a remake?
No, I personally don't think many movies need remakes. I mean, I'm not against them, obviously, but I'm just like, I don't think. I think the best I could say the movie that like the remake made me excited was It. I love the new It way fucking better than the made for TV movie It.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't say. I'd much rather have them make original stuff, man.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. I think what Hellraiser, what I really like is the people involved. I've liked their other movies, and I think this has got a real fighting chance. I think Prey was solid for Hulu. Another
Prey
Fox
was
Hulu
so
original.
good,
Yeah,
man.
it was so good, and something smart that they're doing with these is like, okay, who can we get involved that really likes these movies? And David Bruckner has done The Night House. Leo, did you see The Night House?
No,
It's a really terrifying film about grief and depression, and has a ton of Hellraiser inspiration in that film.
okay,
So I could see why he was hired to direct Hellraiser. That movie is straight up feels like Clive Barker. It feels
okay,
like something
okay.
that he would have done. That's on HBO. I would check that one out. So yes, I think that as long as there's a unique take on this, and from what I know, they're changing things up. It's not about a family. It's a story about an addict figuring out the puzzle, and I think that's an interesting angle to go with this. And I like the cast from what I'm seeing. So as long as they could do something new and interesting, then yeah, I'm totally down for remakes if it makes sense.
Yeah,
Not like I don't know, like the Psycho remake, where it's like the exact same movie, but
yeah,
less good. It's just like
Right.
it's gotta be. There's gotta be a special hook to it to make you
sure,
want to go back to that story.
that's fair. Yeah.
What about you, Gabe?
How about you, Gabe?
I'm a big fan of remakes. I think it's a way for new generations to get in touch with these older properties. For us old heads, we always have the original to look upon, and a lot of times, somebody watches and you're like, "Oh, that's a remake of so and so." A lot of times, these new, like the younger audience will go back and watch the old stuff, and then be like,
Sure.
"Okay, the older stuff." So it's. I feel like remakes are a good way to introduce people to older properties.
What's your favorite remake?
Evil Dead.
Dude, you're right. That I fucking love Evil Dead remake. I don't know anybody who's not a fan of horror that doesn't like the Evil Dead remake. It's so fucking good.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's great. And it's that movie is like it goes for the jugular. Like they came out and said this is like the most bloody, terrifying movie ever, and they do their best to deliver on that. From the opening frame, it's just a bloodbath. I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
First row walked out. 10 minutes in, first row walked out. It was with the daughter being possessed. I'm like, okay, this movie's gonna be a fucking roller coaster, and it is. It's like one of the bloodiest mainstream
So
horror
much
movies.
blood. The
I think
blood
we've seen. There's so much
raining.
blood.
And
Like,
even
Everything.
it's raining blood, and yet you still have the fucking blood coming out from under the arm, and there's like even more blood.
The end fight, dude. That Gabe, that's a very good answer. I appreciate that answer, man.
Yeah, no, I would probably pick the same one. I don't know if, I mean, there's remakes that I've enjoyed, but I don't think like at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, would I watch this over the first one? Probably not. But with Evil Dead, I'm like, I'll throw on Evil Dead. I'll throw on 2013 Evil Dead, and like, hell yeah, but it goes back. It does its own thing. It doesn't try to be the same story. It does something completely new, but
100%.
they open the book. That's the hook. It's another group of kids opening the book, but they're a different group of kids.
Yeah.
Leo, do you have anything you want to plug for Broken Reality or anything you got?
Yeah, man. Broken Reality. We're kind of trying to figure out when we're coming back. John and I have been very, very busy, unfortunately, so we don't know when we're coming back. But we've been talking about the idea of possibly bringing it back in this format, like you guys have here.
Yeah.
So I might pick your brain afterwards to talk about that. Maybe
do it
in the next weekend or so. But yeah, we'll be back with the Broken Reality. I've been really researching astral projection and fucking lucid dreaming, a lot of weird shit like that. So if you guys are interested in weird, anything weird, paranormal, conspiracy theory shit, check us out. We're The Broken Reality. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Gabe, anything you want to say before we close out here?
Not much. Just, our live show is Thursday. And I finally got a recording date with the Not That Bad podcast. So
there you go. Talk about some not that bad movies. I'm sure you'll pick something from the Jared Leto catalog.
I am. I am. It's a Jared Leto movie. You don't know which one yet.
I can assume. I don't know. What's a terrible movie he was in lately?
It's Morbin time.
Yeah, they're Morbius. Jesus Christ. Real quick, I want to remind everybody this was the first episode of My Favorite Horror Movie. I want to thank Leo for coming on, and then we got a whole lineup of people coming. We got this is the lineup right here. So tune in, stick around every Tuesday until the end of October. We're gonna have My Favorite Horror Movie with a bunch of really cool people on. Again, I want to thank Leo for coming on the show. It was
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great episode. Gabe, my partner, and his Jared Leto love. I don't know what he likes about that guy, but anyway, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and tune in for more. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.